right, guys, welcome back to this week's episode of Audibles Sports. We're going to be covering the wild card weekend and go over our favorite plays for FanDuel. Who do you like this week at quarterback?
So I'm going to differentiate my players between cash and GPP, depending on what type of slates you guys like to play. For cash lineups, you can't get much safer than Mahomes or Prescott. Mahomes going up against that Steeler defense that hasn't been what it's cracked up to be, that 8,700 price line. You're not going to get much safer than him with a 30-team implied point total. I like going with Mahomes. Prescott, he's at the 8,000 price tag. So if you want to save a little bit of money on your salary, you can go with him, and you're not going to drop off too much on stat projections either. And they're also right up there as well with a 30-team implied point total.
My favorite quarterback play this weekend is going to have to be Joe Burrow. Nobody's been hotter than him the last 2 weeks. The over-under set for the Raiders and Bengals are at 48.5 right now. So it's going to be a high implied total, and it's only a 5.5 point spread. So it should be a relatively close game. Raiders just gave up 383 yards and 3 touchdowns to Herbert last week, and Joe Burrow should continue that, especially the way his wide receivers have been playing. Mm-hmm. I'm going to pair him up with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Chase put up a 50 burger last time he played. I'm not going to count the Cleveland game because he was just out there for a few plays. And T. Higgins put up 37 points that game as well against Baltimore. So I like that stack this weekend, especially if you're playing the Saturday only slate.
I'm definitely on the Burrow and the Derek Carr train as well. If for GPPs anyway, Burrow more than likely come in highly rostered. But if you go with that double stack strategy, you definitely got to throw Jamar Chase in there with that big playability. And you can go T. Higgins, you can go Tyler Boyd, and you could even go CJ Uzomah. Raiders are one of the worst tight end defenses this year. So you can throw Uzomah in there for that double stack. But that's primarily my biggest reason why he's a GPP candidate for that double stack strategy. Derek Carr, for the weekend, Mac Jones and Big Ben will probably be the only quarterbacks under him in roster percentage. So Carr is definitely a good way to go to get different. He's averaging 293 yards on the road this year. And he's probably got one of the best matchups for quarterbacks this week as well.
And for a value play in that game, I really like Zay Jones. He's 5,300. The last 4 games, his targets were 8, 10, 8, and 9. So he's seeing a lot of targets. And if he keeps that volume, 5,300 should be easy value for a wide receiver spot. You're going to need to save some money. Mm-hmm. And he caught 5 or more in the last 6 of the last 7 games. So he's getting it done with those targets.
Mm-hmm. What about some running backs you have this week?
I'll start with Daryl Williams. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been ruled out. That game looks to be a blowout, so I think it's going to be a game that they keep on the ground later in the game. And Daryl Williams has shined when he's stepped up for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So I know Pittsburgh's a tougher defense, but that game's going to get out of hand. And Big Ben pretty much even said they don't really have a chance this weekend. But
no, they don't. I like Daryl Williams as well, especially for GPP. He's a good cash play as well, to be honest with you, because that 6,600 price line, he's going to be highly rostered now that CEH is out. And being only 6,600, everybody's going to buy into him to try to save a little bit of money. But when you get somebody that gets that kind of volume, when they step into being that starting running back, and you'll be able to spend your salary elsewhere, it's kind of a no-brainer.
Another running back I really like this weekend is Josh Jacobs. 7,200 seems pretty cheap to me. Going up against Bengals, who are 32nd against the running back. This guy is a workhorse. He carried the ball 26 times for 132 yards and a touchdown last game.
I like Josh Jacobs as well, primarily only for GPPs. I wouldn't play him in any of my cash lineups. Josh Jacobs is one of those guys where history shows that he's better when the Raiders are winning. So if you roll the dice, throw him in your GPP lineup, and hopefully it ends up being one of those surprise games where the Raiders just stay ahead most of the game, Josh Jacobs could easily end up being one of the top running backs on what looks to be a weak running back slate this weekend. I love me some Joe Mixon this week. He's going to be in all of my cash lineups. He's the RB1 on the slate for a reason at 8,500 versus the Raiders. The Raiders are one of the worst run defenses in the league this year. So he'll be in all of mine cash lineups. Another cheaper way to go is Devin Singletary against New England. New England's a good defense, but at that sub 7K price tag at 6,900, just makes sense when he's gotten over 83% of the running back touches over the last month.
Another running back I really like is Damien Harris. He's gotten 8 touchdowns in his last 5 games. He's primarily the goal line back in New England. He doesn't really get many receptions, but if he's healthy, I definitely think he's a good play at what was he, 5,900?
He's pretty cheap. I don't know his price off the top of my head. I don't have it here in my notes, but I do know that against Buffalo this year, they played him twice, and he's averaging 5.5 yards per carry against that defense. And it looks to be another bad weather game out in New England. I don't know how the wind is, but it looks to be where, last time they played New England, they were able to beat the Bills with Mac Jones only throwing the ball 3 times. So,
and Buffalo has the number 1 pass defense, so they're going to have to establish that run game if they want to be competitive in that game.
Yeah. Before we move on over to the wide receivers, I'm going to throw out one more play. I'm not going to have him in any of my lineups. He's a little too pricey for me this week. But if you want to get contrarian and be a little different for GPPs, throw Najee Harris out there at 8,000 against the Chiefs. Being 12.5-point underdogs, it's usually a stay away for running backs because they get kind of game scripted out. But Harris is one of those guys where he's game script proof. He'll never leave the field, and he'll likely get a lot of passing game work. But like I said, he's a little too pricey for me to put in my GPPs. But if you want to get a little different, that's another way to go.
And I'm going to go to Sunday's slate and look at my favorite quarterback in GPP for that day. It's going to be Jalen Hurts against the Bucks. He's only 7,700. He should be lower owned because on Sunday you got Pat Mahomes, you got Tom Brady. A lot of people are going to be playing them. Last time Hurts saw the Bucks, he put up 26 fantasy points. Bruce Arians already came out and said, you're not running the ball against us. So they're going to have to throw the ball a lot more. Bucks do have one of the best run defenses, but they are one of the worst against the pass. So I think if Jalen Hurts wants to go to Tampa and win, he's going to have to do it in the air. So Devontae Smith is a great target to pair up with him this weekend too.
Yep, I'm jumping into those wide receivers. I do have Devonta Smith in my GPP lineups. He's only 6,200 going up against a defense that's allowing the highest pass success rate on the year. And over the last month, Devonta Smith has a 23% target share, and he's got 40% of the team's air yards. So that's a no-brainer if you're stacking Jalen Hurts this week.
And another wide receiver I like is CeeDee Lamb at 7,300. I think he's going to fly under the radar, and he's always got a potential to have a high ceiling game. At 7,300, that's probably the lowest he's been in a while because he's been on such a cold streak these last 4 games. But 49ers been struggling against the wide receiver. Josh Norman's at the end of his game.
Yeah, he's the definition of washed.
They gave up over 100 yards to Cooper Kupp last week. I know he's the hottest receiver in the league, but CeeDee Lamb has the potential to put up that type of game, and I like him at 7,300.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Cooper Kupp, there's no need to even defend him. He is the definition of consistency this year. He is 10,000 on FanDuel for a reason, but you find some of those cheaper players like we were talking about in Singletary and Harris, Damien Harris, so that you can afford guys like Cooper Kupp because you're gonna need to play them.
And another, speaking of value, I like Rashad Perryman for the Bucks. Cyril Grayson's been ruled out this week. Rashad Perriman's going to be third behind Gronk and Mike Evans when it comes to targets on that team. I mean, we all know what Antonio Brown did, so he's gone out of the picture. And I don't really trust Tyler Johnson to step up and take away Rashad Perriman's targets because Perriman's been around for a while. He's got a connection with Tom Brady. And
he's already shown his big play. Yeah, he's already shown his big play potential with that overtime touchdown a while back.
Burner, and he can get you a big play at 5,200. All he needs is one of those Hail Marys, and he could be a game changer on a GPP slate.
And we already talked about the Bengals wide receivers, how we like to double stack with Burrow this week. But I do like Deontay Johnson for my cash lineups at 7,200 against the Chiefs. He's already getting a crazy amount of volume, and being 12.5-point underdogs are going to be passing. So DJ is going to be the biggest benefactor from that. But for GPPs, I'm going to throw I'm going to take my shot out at Chase Claypool, who's kind of put a bad taste in people's mouth this year. He was supposed to be one of those breakout players, didn't really live up to that, but 5,900 value against the Chiefs, throw him in your GPP lineups and save some salary. Maybe this will be the week where he has a big week.
Yeah, he had a pretty good game last week. So hopefully he's coming into the playoffs hot, and at 5,900 definitely could be a good value. Let's move on to the tight end position. I think you got to go with Darren Waller at 6,300. He is one of the best tight ends in the league, and 6,300. We haven't seen him that low in a long time. He's been injured, obviously, and going up against Cincinnati, they're 32nd against tight end. He has the potential to be a 20-point player this weekend. So if you're looking for a GPP play at tight end, I think Darren Waller is a good option.
Yeah, GPP for tight end is the tight end position is usually not a position that people spend up on in GPPs. It's usually their punt play. But I have Kelsey and I have Waller both as plays. Kelsey is at 7,500. So if you want to get a little different in GPP and spend up, those are definitely positions you want to look at as Waller and Kelsey. I also throw CJ Uzama in there. The Raiders have been one of the worst defenses in the league against tight ends. He's only 5,200. So if you don't want to spend up, you're looking for one of the cheaper options, he's a way to go.
All right, and that'll do it for our wild card weekend plays on FanDuel. We're going to be posting some plays on Twitter as well, so go ahead and follow us at Audibles Sports on Twitter and YouTube. We hope to win you guys some money this weekend, and we're going to be around for the whole NFL playoffs for FanDuel. So keep an eye out. We might be posting a lineup as well.
Hello, everyone. Welcome into Audibles. It's going to be our first installment of our UFC card that we're going to be getting into. Starting off with the fight night between Chikadze and Keator. Starting off with the TJ Brown-Charles Rosa fight. How you feeling?
I am liking TJ Brown for this fight simply because I've seen him go against Kai Kamaka, who's pretty much a dog in the octagon, going back and forth, tick for tack. He did get caught a couple of times, but he's proven to have pretty good stand-up. He's going against Charles Rosa, as you mentioned. Rosa he's coming in at like last minute. I'm not sure what his shape is right now, but most of his fights have gone to decision. BJJ black belt, American top team. But like I said, coming in at last minute, I think TJ Brown's been preparing pretty well for this fight. I'm favoring TJ Brown again, like I said. As long as he utilizes his wrestling to keep the fight on the feet, I think it'll be okay for this fight.
And I'm going to go over a couple of the bets I like for tonight as well. In this fight in particular, I do like TJ Brown. He's favored at minus 225. Charles Rosa's plus 185 as the underdog. Like you were saying, TJ Brown came off a great win against Kai Kamaka. So TJ Brown's going to be keeping the fight on the feet. As long as he can get some takedown defenses, that should really help his scoring at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, again, I like TJ Brown. I think he's going to pull this win off, and then should be a safe bet on that one. Next fight I'm looking at is Joseph Holmes versus Jamie Pickett. I'm going with Joseph Holmes on this one. Reason being, it is his UFC debut, and that can get a little weary on, throwing him on your card, but he's coming off of some pretty impressive wins, majority by submission. Pickett's been in the UFC for a couple of fights now. He's pretty well-rounded as well. But Joseph Holmes, I believe, is going to take this by decision. If not, then by possibly a third round submission, somewhere around there. But I like him for this fight.
And you say you like the submission in the third or the decision. So I'm really liking the over 1.5 rounds.
Is that what it is right now?
-200.
Yeah, definitely. I would take that.
It should go to the end or at least the third round. So we really like the -200 over 1.5 rounds. All right. And speaking of over 1.5 rounds, I'm going to move on to that heavyweight fight with Jake Collier and Chase Sherman.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, you don't see the heavyweights go all the way, but each of them have went to decision their last 2 fights. So I'm really liking the over 2.5 at -165 this week.
I would take that for sure. Yeah. Let's see what we got next.
And let's look at the Jennifer Maia and Chikazian fight. Who do you like in that one?
I am liking. Okay, so prior history, they have fought before. They went the full 5, I believe. What was it, 5 or 3 rounds? Okay, can't really find her right now. That's all right. She did take the win. From what I've seen, she kept the fight on the feet. Jennifer Maia is dangerous on the ground. Chikazian as well. I believe Maia's got better grappling. But as long as Chikazian keeps it on the feet, should be okay to pull off the decision win on this one. So if they're... Yeah.
It looks like that prior fight did go to decision. Chikazian won it unanimously.
Okay. And
since that did go to decision, I'm also looking at the over on that fight as well. Mm-hmm. It's -390, so you're not getting great value there, but it does look like it's going to go over that one. Or actually, they have this one set at 2.5 rounds. They got the under at 2.5 plus 315. So.
Okay, yeah.
Vegas knows as well as we do that's going over 2.5 rounds for sure.
Most definitely, yeah. That one's going to distance. And what about this? What's this next one? Oh, okay. So don't know how to pronounce first name, but Borshev. He is also making a UFC debut, known as Slaviklaus. He trains over with Team Alpha Male. Used to be Male, it's just now known as Team Alpha. Due to the alpha females they have there as well. So they kind of got to spread the love. But he's known for his knockout wins. He's got heavy hands, quick hands, good stand-up. He's coming in against Dakota Bush, which I'm not very familiar with.
He's only had 1 fight prior to this against Austin Hubbard. Okay. He lost that fight in a unanimous decision.
Okay. Yeah, so I would definitely take Borshev on that. I'm pretty sure the odds aren't going to be that great as far as, under 145.
So the under 2.5 rounds is sitting at -145. You think Borshev's going to get it done under 2.5 rounds?
I believe he's going to set off an impressive highlight for the night. I'm just calling that, but... You never know. This is a fight game. Anything can happen, but I'm going to call for a finish by Borshev for sure.
Yeah, it's hard to tell because we don't have much history between either of these fighters. It's both of their second fights in the UFC. But Borshev did have that KO in the second round. Pretty impressive. So if he can do that again and stop the fight, you're looking at a pretty good line under 2.5 at -145. That could be a good value.
You know where Borshev came from? I mean, he's already in his 30s. He if this is only his second fight in the UFC, do you know, did he come from another company?
Let's look into that really quick. Pull him up on here.
So it looks like he's got a 5-1 professional record, but you said
Borshev
took out a second round KO his first debut.
So he pulled the win out of Dana White's Contender Series, second round, and then prior to that, Titan FC, and then LFA before that. So, yep, 3-fight win streak so far, all finishes coming into this fight against Dakota Bush, who's coming off of a decision loss.
Should be a good spot for Borshev to finish it early.
Yeah.
Highlight of the night, you said?
I believe so. I'm calling that. I'm going to go out on the end of the plank with that one.
All right.
See what we got next. Next, we got the final fight. Calvin Keator, Giga Chikadze. Who do you got for this one?
I'm going to have to roll with Giga on this one. He's coming in at the favorite right now at minus 245. That line hasn't moved too much. Mm-hmm. So Vegas is probably pretty confident in Chikadze as well. I do like the over in this one, over 2.5 rounds set at minus 195, simply because both of them are coming off the decision on their last fights. Chikadze is also undefeated, is he not, in the UFC?
He is. Let's see. I believe it was 7-0, if I'm not mistaken. So 7-fight win streak.
Lost his first fight and then went on a 7-fight win streak. So
yeah, prior
his
to
last
that,
fight was a third round TKO.
It was against Edson Barboza. I remember watching that. Yeah. Prior to that was Cub Swanson with that nasty liver kick in the first round. Just dropped him. Yeah.
Keator's pretty tough and takes the fights to the end. His last 2 fights went to 5th round decisions, and he's got another 5-round fight coming up. So I think that over is looking pretty good at minus 195.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said before, anything can happen in the fight game. Calvin Keator is still a really good fighter. The question is, he's coming off of that nasty loss against Max Holloway last year. And a lot of people don't really know where he's at right now. Mentally, physically, he looks great at the weigh-ins. But, once you get in that octagon, it's probably a little bit different for him. So we're going to see fight night, if he's able to implement his wrestling to kind of fight off Giga Chikadze to keep him guessing. I think he has a pretty good chance as well to take this fight. But if he does decide to stand up with him, it's probably not going to be a good night for him.
No, Max Holloway showed that with landing 447 significant strikes against him last fight.
Yeah, that was not a good night for him.
Looking like it's not going to be another good night with Giga on the win streak that he's on. He hasn't lost since 2018, back in June 2018 to Austin Springer. And that was to a rear naked choke. It looks like he's gotten that fixed. So he's just on a tear since then. Yeah,
Chikadze is definitely the play this week. Take the money line, minus 245. Should be easy money. And I'd also take the over in that one to parlay it for a plus 113.
Yeah, I would take that too. So that kind of wraps it up, unless you got another fight you're looking at.
No, I think that'll do it for this card. This one's not as exciting as a pay-per-view event.
That's harsh. But yeah,
I mean, it's the first round. It's the first fight back in 2022, so
it's a nice little, little refresher.
Nice startup.
Should be a lot more fun on our next installment. I think next installment is going to be that Gane and Ngannou fight, so that'll be a lot more fun to talk about.
Yeah, it'll be a good fight as well.
Definitely looking forward to that fight card. We'll break that one down. And did you have a DraftKings or FanDuel lineup that you put together this week? Or
yeah, I can definitely pull that up. Give me 1 second.
And while he's looking that up, just make sure you're following our Twitter handle at Audible Sports. We'll be posting our lineups on there as well, as long as our favorite plays, especially now that we're getting into UFC. We'll be with you all for the rest of the season for the NFL season, but we're going to be jumping into UFC as well and going through that through the off season.
Yeah, something's got to get us through until the next season of NFL.
Yeah, we'll be talking about the upcoming rookies and the new draft class coming in, especially once the NFL Combine starts, and up and coming fighters, all that good stuff. We're going to be branching out.
All right, so I just pulled up my lineup. I currently have it at Borshev, Brahima, TJ Brown, Giga Chikadze, Kalen Chikagian, and Brian Keller. There are a couple of picks that kind of reflected what we went over today. The other ones had to do a little bit of research and fill in, but I feel pretty confident so far with that. So I'll kind of play that out and see what happens on fight night.
And we'll post that line on our Twitter as well.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, guys, for joining us on our first installment for the UFC. Hope you find this helpful, and hopefully our picks come through and win it for us. Thank you, guys.
See you guys.